is just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back into First and 12. If you've missed any part of today's show, which is an in-depth look at Big 12 football, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, again, wherever you get your podcasts, and the KSL Sports app, KSL News Radio app. So many different ways to listen to this show every single week. We appreciate you for being on board with us. Now, Alex, it's time for our Big 12 picks. It's a loaded slate in Week 7.
Yeah, and actually, you know, we start looking at next week's show already. I start to go, okay, which one of these is going to end up being our game of the week? Because there are actually some pretty darn good matchups. It's easy for us to say some of these ones toward the end of our predictions, which are the end of Saturday, could be in those. But right off the bat, you've got one of your better teams in Cincinnati, and who could prove themselves here. I have no doubt that UCF going to Nippert Stadium, Cincinnati, you can't get good and then suddenly start to forget yourself. You are this far removed, an inch removed from not being good anymore, and now you're like kind of good. And the only way you stay at that is by not taking any opponent for granted. And UCF, say what you will about them. Scott Frost, definitely overperforming a little bit in this year one, but they're no world beater. They're coming to your stadium. Just do the beat down that you did in the first half. Don't fall flat in the first half. Show up and punch UCF in the mouth. You should have no problem. I'm going to go Cincinnati on this one.
Me too. I'm going to go with Cincinnati. You know, these were some games that were always back and forth in the American when these two teams before they joined the Big 12. But I just don't think UCF can win on the road at Cincinnati. And with how well Brandon Sorsby's playing, I just don't see that happening. I'm going to go with the Bearcats. How about Houston at Oklahoma State? I think this one's easy. I'm not going to overthink too much. Houston.
I don't think there's a team the rest of the season on the schedule in the Big 12 that I could, in good faith, say Oklahoma State could win that football game and not die laughing. I think Oklahoma State's going to lose the rest of the season all the way through. So Houston for me as well.
When we do this show next year in 2026, I have a feeling we're still going to be saying, "Hey, Oklahoma State's last Big 12 win was that rainy game against BYU in 2023. It's been that long since they won a Big 12 game. It's not going to end against Houston. Iowa State at Colorado. I'm going with the Cyclones.
I want to think that Colorado's going to show up and go and do the whole win one for the Gipper for Coach Prime. But the thing is that I think there's too much going on off the field for them to get right on the field. And so in these last couple of games, they've had massive tests against two really good teams in BYU and TCU. They showed up early and then just fell off. I bet this week you could see them just not even showing up at the early part of this thing. So I'm going to also go Iowa State. TCU going to Kansas State. I want to say Kansas State's going to fight. I cannot say that they're there yet. They've lost every test that they've had this year. They've basically lost. And I think even playing at home, I think TCU is going to start getting some momentum here. The battle of the quarterbacks between Josh Hoover and Avery Johnson, I'm going to say Josh Hoover wins this one, and I see TCU wins this one as well.
Yeah, TCU, I have them winning this game. Josh Hoover has 57 touchdown passes in 24 starts. Man, he puts up numbers whenever he is in a game. I'm going to go with TCU to win this all-purple clash in the Little Apple on Saturday. Kansas at Texas Tech. I think it's business as usual for Tech. I think they win, but I will also add, I think they win big. I think this could be maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns and make another statement that Texas Tech should not be taken lightly, and they need to be higher in these national rankings. I think Red Raiders big.
Kansas is not at the low point that they were last year at this point, but they also became world beaters around this time. They started to figure themselves out. They started ruining everybody's season. They started ruining everybody's season. Everybody was 7-2 at the end of this thing because of Kansas. I don't think that that's going to start up this week. I don't think that you can go in to Lubbock and get it done yet. I do think Kansas will put up a fight. I don't think it's going to be this weekend. I think we'll be surprised by how close it ends up being, but I do think Texas Tech wins this one. BYU goes down to Arizona. You think BYU continues their undefeated ways here and stays blemish-free here, going down to Tucson?
I do. I think this is going to be a tough game. Aaron Roderick said this week that BYU offensive coordinator that this will be the toughest stretch in the history of BYU football, 6-game stretch, and I agree with that. And it starts with Arizona. I think this could be maybe a low-scoring game potentially. I think BYU wins, though. I think this will be a really entertaining football game, but BYU comes out on top. I'll say that the turnovers are the difference here for BYU, and they win a close one.
I'm going to say BYU wins as well, but let me say this. When that defense was without Jack Kelly, the second half defense to me, and it wasn't just when the guys came in at the very, very end. There were some tough moments that they stood up. The mistakes that were made on both offense and defense last week were disheartening. The 10 penalties at home, a lot of them pre-snap, really dumb. I hope they get that stuff fixed. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess, and they will lose that football game. But I do think they correct some of those things. I think the defense is just good enough to make sure that that Noah Fafita stays in check. I'm going to say BYU ekes that one out down at Tucson. I don't think Arizona's there yet of being a team who's figured it all out. Arizona State goes to Utah. Who do you have in this one up at Rice Eccles Stadium, Mitch?
I'm going to go with Arizona State to win in an upset. Even though Arizona State's the higher-ranked team, Utah is the favorite.
Are they really?
Yeah, Utah is the favorite by about 4 points. So
that's actually quite wild.
It is. And, Arizona State's rush defense is sound. If they can limit, Utah's ground attack, I think Arizona State comes away and wins this one. They've been really good in one-score games. Or since last season, they're 8-3 in one-score games since last year. This is going to come down to the wire, but I think ASU comes out on top. And I think also in a battle, too, where Dampier is a really good quarterback, it's one of the matchups where he's going to be maybe not the best quarterback in the game. I think Leavitt's the better quarterback here, and I think that's the difference, too. I'm going to go with the Sun Devils.
Weirdly, I think that Sam Leavitt actually gets still kind of just, well, you were good because of Cam Scattaboo, right? There's still a little bit of that's left over. And I'm like, this guy finds Jordan Tyson on the field wherever. And those two guys beat Utah by themselves last year, basically.
And their passing offense is not great this year. I mean, the numbers are very pedestrian, but I still think these are the spots where, Leavitt's experience, that's going to shine through in a spot like
I think Utah gets right at home. Okay. I think that Kyle Whittingham goes, enough of this garbage. We're not doing this. We're going to get right. Our breaking of the conference losing streak at Rice Eccles Stadium happens in a big way against Arizona State this
Any
weekend.
Look ahead, I think a side note for BYU and Utah, look ahead to next week, the rivalry game. Does that play a role in any of this week too? Because that kind of plays in my mind too with these two teams where I think both teams are going to have close spots.
I think it does most of the time, but these two programs are big enough and they say it enough that I don't think that that's the case. I think they take rivalry week exactly when it starts because it doesn't mean as much when they lose to one of these other teams. You lose to Arizona, it's like, the rivalry game doesn't feel as good. People want BYU to be undefeated going into that Utah game. They want Utah to be as high ranked as possible. Utah will break back into the top 25 if they beat Arizona State this week, and BYU will be ranked and probably in the top 15. And that's what you want with the rivalry game. It can't happen if you don't win. So, all right, there it is for another one in the books here, Mitch. Awesome show again this week, man.
Rivalry week next week. Who would have thought? In October. Already counting down.
I know. We're already into week 7. It'll be week 8 next week, and we knew this was going to happen, but the season is already well underway, and we're just trying to catch up with this thing. But we will get you caught up every week right here on 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio. For Mitch Harper and Gustavo, I want to say thank you for being a part of the program. I'm Alex Kirry. We'll see you next time, everybody, right here on 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio.